Hey, a pleasant good day, everybody. This is the next edition of the JB and Steel Show, as we're here to give you the latest and the greatest from the NHL, NFL, and then if we have some time at the end, we'll cover some NBA action with you as well. But let's first get into the recency around the NHL and what's going on there, and something that we found interesting between a few teams, because there's quite a bunch of teams, being the Dallas Stars and one of them that got screwed by the refereeing at the end of the game yesterday, I must say, against St. Louis. But they're a team that would be in the playoffs if they were even minutely close to being as good on the road as they are at home, because they're killer at home, 13-3-1, as Steel brought it up before the podcast, ended the Penguin streak at home, and then unfortunately lost again. That wasn't really necessarily on them, but at the same time, one of their issues on the road is not scoring enough. So they could have still scored one goal, and that would have helped the fact of the refs being able to screw you at the end of a game. But either way, you have to be better than 4-10-1 at the road. You got to get that going. Bonus had every right to be as pissed as he was yesterday after that, because you can't make two calls like that at the end of a game.
Yeah,
But you have to be much better again still scoring. You got to get it going on the road. That loss, though, was kind of thrown in the trash can because of how it happened. But other losses on the road, you really got to pick it up and do your thing, just like you're doing at home.
Exactly. And first of all, thank you all very much for checking us out. This is Volume 8 of the JB and Steel Show. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. But yeah, you can go just dive in. Well, what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like they're a fun defensive-oriented, have a good defensive.
Yeah, I've been really Rupe Hintz has been playing well. Really liked what Dallas has been doing. But yeah, you're right. 4-10 on the road is not getting it done. And when you get to the playoffs, you need to be able to win on the road, because you're going to play half of the games on the road anyway, whether you're at the home team or not. If you're going to 5 games, you're going to play at least 2 of those games on the road. You know what I mean? So you better be better than 4-10 on the road, I would think. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, I like what they're doing. I was a little bit surprised what they did in goal, but then I wasn't, because of how well goaltending has been there. Do you know what I mean? Where Hudobin was
Ottinger. Do you mean kind of letting Holtby be the mentor to Ottinger now instead of
Hudobin? Yeah,
Hudobin. I mean, I think that I guess they signed Holtby, I guess in retrospect, to have more another goaltender than whoever emerged, because I don't think they expected Holtby to be as good as he is this year, kind of rebounding, being similar, not the same Holtby as we once saw, but coming back to being a very good goaltender. Yeah. And now they have one of the best youngsters in Jake Ottinger, and now you have Holtby playing at that level. And then from everything I've read, and then Kevin Weeks brought it up, but from things I read on The Athletic and Score, it seems like other teams are interested, and NHL trade rumors, in Hudobin. So they'll probably end up getting like a middle round pick for him or something. And then he'll go on to be a backup for because
one team. He went. They put him on waivers. Hudobin.
He's with the Texas Stars now since he cleared waivers.
Yeah.
So he's been playing down in the AHL, but if he gets picked up, he'll be back in the NHL probably with somebody as their second.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all. And to be honest with you, though, I watched that game, the Dallas-Pittsburgh game. I watched that game. I watched them beat Pittsburgh, and they played so well. They looked like a well-oiled team. They played good in all aspects of the game. Power play, penalty kill, the whole 9 yards. Goaltending was great. Defense was great. And then they get on the road, and it's like, they just crumble it up and throw it in the trash.
I released my New Year report on them today because I just started having the thinking juices going when I was watching that game yesterday, even though, again, that game was thrown in the trash can because of the way they lost because the refs a little bit. But
look, here's the thing, though, Joe. Here's the thing, though. You said it. It doesn't matter what the refs say or do. It doesn't matter what we feel about what the refs do. None of that stuff matters. What matters is the team should have been better so that they didn't have to worry about the referees making a bad call or things like that. You know what I mean? You said it earlier.
Exactly.
You touched on it earlier. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But to wrap up the talk stars, the other thing they have to worry about is Klingberg wants to be traded. So you got to get the right asset for John Klingberg, since he's not going to be on the team next year anyway. That's going to have a huge impact on your playoff successes as well, what you get back for that. So that's going to be interesting to see. Or do you just tell him, we're still pushing for the playoffs this year, you can just go in free agency wherever you want, and then you just keep him for the rest of the season, hoping you do well with him. That's a huge risk, because then you would want to do pretty solid, so you actually don't care about not getting anything back from them. That's why I think at this point with the Stars, they might as well just get the best assets, because you're going to get good stuff for Klingberg, bring in another good, say, young defenseman and maybe a forward or a young defenseman and pick, and that's going to help you out for now. In the future, you're going to get someone that's NHL ready for John Klingberg. And you can get an ready prospect for John Klingberg that's a good defenseman.
Right. They are right now currently sitting in 12th in the conference. Okay.
Yeah, although points are really close, and they have a couple games in because they only played 32, which is the big thing to focus on this year, just like it was in the last year.
Right. So when you look at so now you change it to say like winning percentage, because winning percentage gives you the exact, because it's based off of the number of games you play, how you win, whatever.
Yeah, they have a higher winning percentage than the three teams above them.
That still puts them. That puts them in 8th place in the West. If you.
Oh yeah, they even have a higher winning percentage than the Kings. Yeah, I didn't even see that. Yeah, you're
right. So that puts them in 8th place if you do it by winning percentage. All right. Unfortunately, they do it by points, so that's just kind of how that works out. But like I said, I mean, if you take away that,
maybe that's the reason they do it by points, because of the routes.
Well, listen, if you take away if you take away those 10 losses that they had on the road,
they've been a very good team. That's the thing. Yeah, if they can get going on home or on road ice, I mean, like they have been on home ice. Maybe that's why I made the joke. Maybe that's why they don't do it by points percentage. Because then you can be great at one thing.
Yeah.
You would actually be a solid spot. But.
I mean, they're not necessarily the worst. Well.
They're one of the worst road teams, because Arizona's
Detroit is 4-11.
Yeah. 4-8.
And Seattle. Right, and Seattle is not that good either. They're 4-8.
The other team I was actually, you kind of foreshadowed a team that I was going to bring up later. Detroit was one of the teams I was going to bring up later, because they would be significantly better than 500, and actually in the wild card spot over the Boston Bruins if they were somewhat consistent on the road and not literally like the worst team down there with the Arizona Coyotes, who
4-11-2 on the road is not.
Arizona's 4-11-1 maybe. No, they're also 4-11-2. They're both 4-11-2.
Both.
So you don't want to be equal with Arizona when you're at the end of your rebuild. You have Sider. You got all these exciting players on your team that are trending in the right direction. You obviously don't want to be at that point still on the road. So if they can get that trending, they're another team, because obviously they got Nedeljkovic in goal, which was a very good pickup. And the big thing he does too is he takes a lot of pressure off defense. There's an article of people that subscribe to The Athletic. If you type in Alex Nedeljkovic, it should come up. It's about how he's like one of the best puck handling goaltenders, and how good that is, because it takes so much pressure off the defense if you're really effective at doing that.
Exactly.
And he is one of those guys. And
he becomes like another defenseman.
Exactly. It helps those young defensemen that are with Detroit so much, because they don't have to worry about trying to come behind, like with the Flyers, who, no offense to Carter Hart, but he's not necessarily the best puck playing goaltender. No. And neither is Martin Jones. So like, you have guys that have to come around the net and have to try to play the puck because your goalie can't do it. If you're Hronek, if you're Leddy, if you're Sider, you don't have to do that. And why do you think Mark Stahl is actually having a better season as a veteran with their team, probably because his goaltender takes a lot of pressure off of a guy that really can't handle the puck that well at this point of his career, like he used to do. All he has to do is just be a solid, steady defenseman, which is all he should be, a sixth or seventh at this point, and he's been their sixth and doing well. But you got the pizzazz on offense. You got Zadina, you got Fabry, you got Raymond, Larkin, Bertuzzi. You got guys, and then you have Sider, obviously, and Hronek on defense, plus, like I said, Stahl, Oscar. Well, like you have guys that are coming. Nedeljkovic is another very good young goaltender, now at 26. Grei's doing better as a backup would help a lot, too, because he's still not that great. So that's something you might want to look to add, potentially, if you are going to try to push to be a wild card team and make this be a year that you get your experience for the young guys in the playoffs, no matter what happens type of thing, and be the wild card team instead of Boston, who's starting to age. Then you would, I think, might want to get a better backup goaltender.
Right. But now let's throw something else here into the mix, too. Detroit is 29 is a 29 difference in the goal differential. Boston is plus 11, where Detroit is minus 23. Do you know what I mean? In the goal differential department. So that's
they
big.
Also have an interesting young because they have a guy that's done really good in the AHL and ECHL. Had one game with Detroit before. I think it was because of injuries in 18-19. I have no idea why he honestly played a game after coming out of Hamilton Bulldogs. But he's only 23 years old now, Caden Fulcher. But
yeah,
he would be like he's a guy that they would have to kind of rush up, just like we've seen other goaltenders have to be rushed up this year if they have to play like Annafeld and different other people. So I wouldn't do that, but that's a name to necessarily look at maybe as a backup to Nedeljkovic for the future, because by the time he comes up, Nedeljkovic is going to be 27, 28. He's kind of a guy that can show ropes at that point in time. And then they can just have a cheap, almost like a Georgiev backup, like how the Rangers have. So they have a cheaper backup because he kind of just profiles as a very good backup and maybe starter. That's why like he hasn't really necessarily been the one to be traded to another team, because he profiles as more of that. Like James Reimer, they can be a good starter, but they're like not necessarily always like the guarantees, or the Jonathan Berniers earlier in his career. He could be a starter, but not necessarily the guarantee. Like he kind of profiles more in that category.
Exactly. So either way, though, I mean, the fact that we've got all this stuff going on in the NHL right now, where there's still a lot of games that are being postponed, and I'm not just talking about the Canadian games, because a lot of those games are postponed because of attendance issues. Okay, but the Tampa Bay and New Jersey is postponed. Okay. Now the Blue Jackets, Montreal, that's postponed. Minnesota, Winnipeg, that's postponed. Those are Canadian games that are postponed. So
yeah, we knew that because of the attendance stuff. But yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something with Canada is going to happen for a while. With here, it seems like it'll happen for probably 3 to 4 more weeks potentially, and that's if we're going by London and the way that other places' trajectories have gone. It'd probably be like another 3-week stretch, and then by that time you start seeing some downturn in certain areas, as other places are still kind of hot. Like that's hopefully what happens. But again, I say that we'll see we'll see what happens over time.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of basically the only thing that they can do, and that's kind of only basically all that we can do too. Do you know what I mean? Is we can just we can only hit what's pitched, right? You know what I mean? And
that's why I kind of wanted to just talk about the differences of the teams, because also a team that fits a little bit in that category, granted they only played 14 games on the road this far, in their 35 games is Florida, because they are a great overall team, but they could have pulled way ahead of Tampa if they were better than 5 on the road. Like,
That's
they
true.
would not be, it would not be 51-51 right now. They would be in a good spot, because the difference is Tampa's good in both spots. They're 12-4-3, and then 11-5-2, the Tampa Bay. So they're actually good in both spots. And then both teams are 6-3-1 in the last 10. So both teams are staying with each other. But if Florida could have pulled away earlier by doing better in their first 14 road games, they could have been 4, 6, whatever points ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it wasn't going to be looking like this potential gruesome, which is going to be fun to watch, but this great battle was going to have more fighting than usual between the Battle of Florida because of the way it's going to get in the end. But they could have been a little bit more ahead of that tide at this point if they were another one of the teams that were not a little bit spotty in their first, say, 14 to whatever games, these teams at 14 to 17 or whatever the list of these games.
Exactly. And here's the other thing too that makes this maybe a little bit more of an issue here with Florida and bodes well for Tampa Bay. During that stretch, Tampa Bay was missing key points of key players of their team. You know what I mean? During this key stretch here where, they still managed to go 11-5-2 on the road and 12-4-3 at home. Whereas Florida is, like you said, 5-4-5 in the away category. Do you know what I mean? So it bodes well more so for Tampa Bay than it does for Florida moving forward, because Tampa Bay had all those guys missing. Now those guys are starting to come back, where Florida didn't have any of those. I mean, they had Barkov there, and they had a couple guys, but for the most part, it wasn't like they were missing,
Yeah. No, I would agree. But Florida, I think, has been missing a couple people, but it hasn't been to the extremity of. But
Tampa Bay,
I think it's just both of those teams, I think it's going to go down to the wire, and I don't think either are going to fall from being towards that top 3. And then you, of course, have Toronto that is pushing behind them there in the Atlantic Division with 47 points. But I think that they're pretty safe otherwise, because Boston is 38, 36, and then it drops all the way to 26 with
right.
Buffalo.
Yeah. But then you got
Florida's to the end, unless if Toronto can pick up like their pace by about 3 points or so, and kind of keep tabs with them a little bit better, which they could, because the big thing with Toronto is they're also started solid on the road, 8-4-2, very good at home, and have only played 33 games to the 37 and 35 of Florida. So Toronto could really make that up if they can win those games at hand.
I'm with you on that. And you know what else too? Toronto has also kept pace. They are 6-2-2 in their last 10, right? Okay, so
they're all like kind of in that same spot.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But the only problem though is that Toronto has played 3 games less than Tampa Bay. 4 games less than Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And 2 games less than Florida. But they are not even, they're 6th in the conference. Washington's ahead of them by 2 points. The Rangers ahead of them. And Carolina are ahead of them.
The conference, I'm just looking, if you win the games at hand in the Atlantic, well, you would make up room in the conference too, but you have the games at hand against your own division that if you start winning those games, you're going to be right there locked in with Tampa Bay and Florida, because you just have to win those games. That's the big thing. Yeah. You can't be losing the games at hand. If you win them though, then it becomes a 3-way battle where Boston or Detroit would really have to catch up to be not in the wild card conversation and get more in the top 3 of the Atlantic, which I don't see either getting to that point. I think one of those teams is going to be a wild card team.
I'm just because of how it's shaking up right now. You got Carolina and the Rangers both at 50, and then you got Florida and Tampa Bay both at 51. So that's essentially your top four right there. Right. Then you got Washington at 5 with 49 points. Then you got Pittsburgh at 6 with 45 points. Then you got Toronto at 7 with 47 points. Or I'm sorry, Toronto's at 6, and then Pittsburgh is at 7 with 45. So, I mean, they're ahead of Pittsburgh, and they're taking 7 teams, right? Or they're taking 8 teams.
On my thing, it says Pittsburgh's at 10th in the league.
10th in the league.
Well, I'm looking at it more from, because the easier way to look at it, I think, on the standings and know who's in the playoffs is just look at it under, because it shows you the top 3 in the division, who they take, and then the wild card teams by that.
They take the top 4 for each division, right?
3.
Oh, the top 3. Okay.
Yeah, the top 3 of each. Like right now, the top 3 guaranteed in the Atlantic are Florida, Tampa, Toronto. And then Metropolitan would be Carolina, New York, Washington.
Okay.
The wild card would be Pittsburgh with 45 points, then Boston with 38. And then in the wild card, Detroit's the closest. They have 36 points to Boston's 38. CBJ and us have 33, and so does MJ. And then it falls all the way back to 20s. And then the West, Nashville, St. Louis, Colorado would be the teams in the Central right now. Vegas, Anaheim, Calgary would be the Pacific, with Minnesota heavily ahead of it. Not heavily ahead, but 44 to 39.
Still, though, yeah. You know what's really amazing?
The second wild card's tied with San Jose and the Kings right now, and then Edmonton is 38 points.
The East, the Eastern League has far and away more points than the Western.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Nashville, though, is one of my teams, though, that I think is scary this year, even though they might not have the point share like we just said with the West. But if maybe they shouldn't push the offensive pace as much, like Lance was saying when we got done with the show. But at this point, you kind of want to get the most out of Duchesne and Johansson, because I think that was more, we need to get these dudes going. But this year, they're a team that they're 10-5 on home place, which is good, but they're 13-6-2. They're one of the better teams on the road, which is going to play well towards when you have to play tough opponents late. If they can keep getting good key wins on the road, that's going to really help them to be able to stay not just with the St. Louis's and Colorado's throughout the season, but there is a team that people start going, oh, well, this is kind of going from a surprise team to now we kind of have to talk about this team.
Exactly. That's kind of how I feel about Anaheim.
Exactly. Yeah. Anaheim, I feel like, because of the way they bursted onto the scene, they kind of have been in already the talked about team is, maybe this team is not what we thought they were. And because they have such a great young talent plus a great goaltender, we should have expected a little bit more out of them.
Well, they didn't really show much of it late,
in recent years, but you also didn't have Troy Terry performing like his breakout season this year. You got Isaac Ludestrom keeps getting better as a 200-foot guy. On
Gibson's been standing on his bloody head.
Solars has been a good backup as well.
I know, that's been really good too.
With Stothers, I believe. Yeah, Mike Stothers leads their defense. Is playing one of the most efficient they have in years. So
exactly. So, and also too, I think Calgary also would count. You'd have to put Calgary in that list as well too of surprise teams, I think, coming out of the West, because
they've been very good on the road too. 13-7-2. They barely played at home yet. They only played 11 home games, and they're 4-3-4.
Right. So
they'd like to be better there, but they haven't had the sample size of other teams either.
We've seen how good they are on the road, Calgary. We've seen them come down the West, come down the East Coast and just house everybody. So, Calgary, and that's kind of why I'm thinking about Calgary too,
When you have, it's the same thing. We talked about it. The Ducks are a surprise team looking like they're a little bit ahead or better than they were supposed to do, because everybody was talking about, it's a different perspective. The Ducks were kind of heading towards this trajectory, but people thought it was another year out maybe, or another, like before they
maybe.
Where with the Flame, just like rumors like Lindholms, the Gaudreaus, rumors of people being moved because people thought they were not going to be as impressive and kind of be a team that underperforms again. And then they're doing this, and they have one of the best goaltenders in the league this season. Goaltending and defense goes a huge way. Their defense is really performing. I think that is really going to help them going forward. Where the Flames, the one thing that they're not the best at developing everything, but the one thing that I guess you could say they have done okay is turned offensive defensemen into somewhat decent, better defensive defensemen. Because if you look at Shylington this year, he's playing his very good offensively, but his best overall defensive season. And then Noah Hannafin has kind of become their lesser version of Pesce, where like he used to be more what you thought would be the offense push. 13 points in 32 games isn't bad, but now in over 20 minutes a night, he's able to be reliable on both ends rather than be suspect on the other end of the ice, which was an issue earlier in his career with Carolina. So
I think the coaching change in Calgary was a huge.
Daryl Sutton.
Yeah, it has a huge, because like they brought him in halfway through the year last year. And then he got to basically evaluate what he had on the team and then have a full training camp, and then was able to come out with guns blazing with his system, his philosophy, the guys that he wants for the most part. You know what I mean? And bang, there you go.
I think Calgary's a dangerous team. The problem with the West is that they have to look out for who is a riser as Edmonton's falling, as Winnipeg's kind of bottoming out, not doing the best, and Dallas again needs to get going on the road, then they'll be good. A riser is the, as everybody in Vancouver likes to say, Bruce, there it is, the Vancouver Canucks, who are 8-1-1. They're still only at 35 points. They're not there yet, but if they keep, it's like Boudreau said when he got hired, all we have to do is win the rest of the season, and then we're good. Well, an 8-1-1 start, doing well in your first 10, that's going to get you going in the right directions. Then if you can even win 7 or keep winning 6, 7, 8 in the next 10s each time, you're going to keep moving up the standings. That you're going to have the teams like Edmonton that are sinking, and Winnipeg that's kind of just played flat, kind of like average. You're going to have to really pick that up. Otherwise, all of a sudden, you're going to see Vancouver go from 7th to 6th to 5th to 4th, and then you're going to be going, the Sharks and Kings are going to be going, where the heck did the Canucks come from? And then,
right.
They're a team that had the talent. It's just with Bruce Boudreau, you're going to be able to push the offense, and now they've been able to do a lot more efficient on offense since he's come in, and that's obviously got them a lot of wins. But at the same time, they've still been good defensively. That's why Boudreau even said himself, like my system, like when he got hired, basically that his system's not necessarily not defensive. It's just he wants to be aggressive to then push the offense. So he wants to kind of make his defensemen be more in their face and use the talents, like the skills they have, rather than kind of play back like some teams do too much nowadays.
See, that's why I really thought he might have been a good pick to come to Philadelphia to take over after AV got fired. I thought he might have been a good coach for Philadelphia at the time. But, it is what it is. And Vancouver was able to snatch him up. And he's 8-1-1 since he's gotten the job, which means that when he was brought in, the team was 8-14-2.
Yeah, they were not. Yeah, they really are picking it up. They're one of the hottest teams in the league since he's come in. That's why they have a chance to kind of recover here and potentially get themselves back into the race. And then you're going to start having Vancouver fans, of course, think that they're the next St. Louis, and then we'll have to see what happens. So.
Well, look, hey, as long as you can get yourself to the dance, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, as long as you can win enough to get to the point where you can qualify for the extra season, who cares how you get there? It's probably going to be ugly for some teams. It always is. There's always teams out there that struggle, and it's hard, and they make it at the very last second, and they make it into the playoffs. And those are the teams you don't want to play, because those are the teams that are hungry. You know what I mean? Usually. Most of the time you get to you end up playing a team that comes in hot, winning all their games before they come into the playoffs, and then that's not the team you want to play neither. You want to play a team that's, oh, hey, you rested your starters and you lost the last couple of games of the season. Yeah, that's the team I want to play the first round in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. No, I think now, though, the other issue, like you said, obviously some teams have less games, but there's other teams that I think they're going to be able to recover on too. Like I said, you can take advantage of teams like, well, first of all, San Jose was playing ahead of where people thought they would be in the season. So if they fall back, they're a team. Edmonton started to fall back already, and then Winnipeg's bottomed, and then Dallas has to get going on the road. So if they can do that, then that'll really help them, and then Vancouver might be screwed. But if they don't do that, and Vancouver keeps picking it up, they're the team that might be able to get to third or fourth and then be right back behind these wild card teams competing right there to potentially get into the postseason. So that's what's going to be interesting to see going forward, where for the Ducks, I want to see them and Calgary do better in their next 10, because Calgary did bad in their list and they were 3-6-1.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Them continue to kind of be that team that can pushing and do something, because this might be one of their last hurrahs since Goudreau's going to move on and they have other guys they have to worry about signing and whatnot. So you want to be able to kind of push it this year with especially the great goaltending you're getting. So that's why I want to see them do better, and I want to see the Ducks 4-4-2 with a young team. I would love to be have your worst 10 game stretch, obviously be around 500, so that's fine. But let's get it pushing a little bit back to what you were doing to start the season.
Yeah.
In the next 10 games, because I think the Ducks, with all the offensive talent they have and the way that Stothers has that defense playing, is a mighty dangerous team, because you have John Gibson also this season. Now you just got to keep picking it up again, where if you're Colorado, St. Louis, and Nashville, you guys have been cruising the last 10 and have been good for the most part all season with those teams. You just got to keep doing what you're doing. And then Boston has impressed me in their last 10, because they're not the same Boston Bruins as we've talked about a bit on the podcast. But they still, and it's kind of a little bit by default of CBJ falling back, the Flyers sucking, and New Jersey being New Jersey. Where if Detroit
that's a good way to look at it.
Pick up on the away realm, it's the same thing for the Bruins. They might be screwed, similarly to how I said Vancouver might be screwed if Dallas can pick up on the away realm. But it's going to be interesting to see, because Boston has been playing better to kind of stay in that wild card pace themselves. And they have been a team that's been 9-6-1, so 2 above at home, but then 9-5-1, 3 above away. They've been at least consistently just solid. They haven't been great at all, but consistently just okay, where these other teams have been really bad on the road. In Columbus, in Detroit, the Flyers have been bad at each. And then New Jersey's been bad on the road, and then is 2 games above at home. In hockey, 500 turned to 9-7-3. So that's been helping them out, just being solid in both ends.
Exactly. So, I mean, look, there's still a boatload of hockey left to play. There's still a lot of stuff that's going to happen.
Jump on from hockey, though, to go to the NFL, because that's what I wanted to do next. There's one team I wanted to ask you about, because the Rangers, I think we called it a year in advance, me, you, and Pirlo, where this is the year they really started hitting it. I think we all kind of projected them last year when we had that video we were doing. But the team I want to ask you
about, I think,
isn't really them, because we just projected that a year in advance. We're actually right about them being an impressive team. Is a team that John, check out Off the Wall Hockey's video if you want to check it out, on the Washington Capitals. But the Capitals staying at this clip. Like, I thought they would descend a little bit, where they're right there, 1 point behind the Rangers and Carolina for the Metropolitan. As they're getting older, a big part is because Ovechkin seems like age is just a number. Backstrom seems like he gets banged up a bit, but when healthy, age is just a number. He's still a great playmaker. You have Kuznetsov, you have Carlson. I mean, maybe we just underestimated this team since they were able to get Vanacek back and keep their goalie tandem too, and they didn't even lose that after they thought they were going to lose, and they got them right back.
Yeah. They finished really strong at the end of last year. The Rangers did. They pushed and they were not that far from making the playoffs.
That's true. So we were kind of right last year, but what about the Capitals, though?
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm going to go with here. So the Islanders have significantly dropped off. So that has opened the gates for a team to step in. And that team that decides to step in is the Rangers. Okay. And man, I'll tell you what, that team has just been playing very well. They are playing good, responsible hockey. They play good on the defense. They forecheck really well. Their guys pinch at the right time. They're making the right decisions at the right times. They're just playing really good hockey. You can't argue how good the goaltending tandem has been there. Shesterkin has been playing. Okay, I wouldn't mind having him as a goalie. What? I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Georgiev, after a slow start, actually has become what you expect of him as just a good 905 to 910 save percentage, save percentage backup.
Still in the nines, though. Right? Still in the nines. Okay. And then really thought that Pittsburgh was going to drop away and thought that Washington was going to drop away. Because let's face it, Washington's not getting any younger. TJ Oshie is another year older. Backstrom is another year older. And Ovechkin's another year older. And you said it. It doesn't seem to matter. Age is just a number for them guys. They're just still cranking it off. And it doesn't matter how many games Oshie misses. It doesn't matter how many games Backstrom misses or whoever else wants to miss games down there. It doesn't matter. Laviolette, I got to be honest with you. You might even have to put him as a Jack Adams for this year. The way he's got these Capitals playing, I would have to say you might have to consider him for Jack Adams. And I'll tell you somebody else who you'd have to consider as well, too. And that would be Sullivan from Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, because they fit into the same category of age doesn't seem to matter if you're Chris Letang or obviously, well, Crosby also had COVID with symptoms. Comes back, it only takes him about 5 games to become Sidney Crosby again.
He's got a 6-game point streak now. He's on, and
other leagues taking like 6 weeks just to get back to their normal self. Yeah. Crosby's just like, don't mind me. I'm still the second coming of Wayne Gretzky. Don't worry about me here.
Yeah, right. And Malkin, they've missed Malkin this entire time.
No, okay. Yeah, they missed Malkin, and the other thing is though. The big thing I think that fits in with the Capitals is you hit it when you said it doesn't matter with the guys that have gone out because other guys they have a young, talented guy that they picked 25th in 2019 and Connor McMichael, who's showing his talent already this year. He stepped up in moments. Wilson has stepped up. Alexi Protas is a great net from.
Oh yeah, ding.
And then you have Daniel Sprong has slid from the fourth line to the first line times and has fitted in a bunch of different spots. He's like Lappy, how he always likes having those Swiss Army. He's that Swiss Army player that they have there where that's why the Capitals on top of the goaltending, their defense playing well, which with Laviolette, your defense is at least going to be smash mouth in your face with the current
at
stock.
At least.
Yeah, that's going to help. That's why they're still successful even with older guys because he's putting them in great positions where with the Rangers, they're just getting the most success. Dan Quinn's not Dan Quinn's team, Gerard Gallant's team is getting the most success because similar to what he did with Vegas, he's trying to just kind of, I think, tell guys, be your offensive self. Don't think things. I think these players have done. And Kakko's starting to really kind of emerge this year with Kreider and Zibanejad at times. Strome is a UFA, but he's playing a really good season. Goudreau's fitting in well. He didn't end up being that Nick Ritchie, which didn't end up working out with Toronto. Goudreau's worked out really well with the Rangers. And then you have Lafreniere, who's starting to develop, but you don't give him the pressure because you have these other guys performing above, so it's letting him develop at
Yeah.
his rate.
He's
Heidel's
on the third line.
yeah,
You know? Yeah.
Aaron's a good player. Lindgren and Fox is one of the best defense
Oh,
picks
yeah.
in hockey. So you have the defense, you got the goaltending. Shesterkin's one of the best young goaltenders. Georgiev's a very good backup. Both of these teams, I think, are going to stay dangerous because of what you said, and what I completely agree with. They're just getting good coaching and getting great play throughout their team.
Yeah.
And one is just defying Father Time, and the other is just doing great because they drafted well and brought in very good veterans. It's to their team as well. In the New York Rangers, like Barclay Goodrow's of the world, the Jacob Trubas of the world, even Tenorti, who's a great locker room guy because he's been great.
Exactly.
But had to work his tail off to get back up because he never cut it. And then he started doing good with Nashville a couple of years ago, and now has made his career as a 6'7" defenseman and still a good AHLer when he's down there. So
exactly. Very much impressed with what the Rangers have done this year as well as what Washington and Pittsburgh have done. Was not expecting them to be there. Thought they would be more of the aging teams that would be falling away. Was expecting a little bit more from New Jersey this year. Not seeing that. Was expecting a lot more from Philadelphia this year. Not seeing that. Right. And the Islanders, like, what? What the frick happened to the Islanders?
Well, with Pittsburgh, I think it also fits into they did great on the signings for guys on the cheap. Like Evan Rodriguez is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. And he's been lighting it up.
Yeah, Dayton Heinein's 0.47 points per game, which is really good for a guy at 1.1 million bucks. And then Jeff Carter's at 0.64 points per game for a guy at 2.63. And so, like, you're getting bang for your buck left and right through the Pittsburgh Penguins lineup. We're about to go into football through the Pittsburgh Penguins lineup. And also, since going there, Pirlo and I were going, oh, Matheson, interesting. Mike Matheson wasn't doing that great in Florida. Goes to Pittsburgh, has been playing like Mike Matheson did at the beginning of his career again. So now he's got the skating speed back. Looks like he's flying on the ice again. They're pushing all the right buttons there. So yeah, they're defying Father Time just like the Capitals. The Rangers are doing great because they brought in the right veterans mixed with their plethora of young talent that's not even all there yet. There's still a bunch of them with the Hartford Wolfpack that have a chance to be Rangers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward and in college and or overseas.
Yeah.
They have a good prospect pool if you're the New York Rangers. Pittsburgh doesn't, so they still want to win now. And Washington is kind of in the middle.
But they're getting draft picks. Pittsburgh is anyway, so they're starting to put together draft picks. They got Hextall there, so you mentioned it, Pittsburgh Steelers, and we got to say it. Playoffs. How about that? The NFL is in playoffs.
The NFL, it was, this year, I didn't expect. When we were talking on the show, it didn't seem like you expected your Steelers to get in. But this is what I brought it to you before the show, but I have to bring it to you now on the show because the Chiefs, well, one, their defense is not that great to begin with. But two, when you can, like I said, at times with running, you can fit a hockey Zamboni or a Mack truck through the rushing defense. So if you can commit to the run, now that's an if, but answer it in that world. Imagine they do commit to the run. What do you give your chances at that point compared to if you keep playing by the same play style you've been playing all season? Against the Chiefs, for people that don't know they're playing the Chiefs.
Okay. So it's not that Pittsburgh isn't committed to the run. And it's not that Pittsburgh doesn't have one of the best rookie running backs in the league. Because they do. Okay. Najee Harris. The first rookie to go his entire first season without a credited fumble. He's had over 300 touches and not a single fumble. So give it up to the big Naj. The problem is not that Pittsburgh is not committed to the run. The problem is not that Kansas City has a pretty weak run defense. The problem is that Pittsburgh doesn't have a good enough offensive line to get a hat on a hat to get guys cleared out so that there can be
Although at the same time, though, if you look at it, like you can open up for example, for a guy like Big Ben, if you have a shoddy offensive line but a great running back, sometimes that's able to, like Saquon in his first couple of years. I wouldn't accuse the Giants of having a great offensive line by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
They opened up their passing game because he was just able to spread out, like just showcase his talent and get yardage that was then able to open up the passing game more at either the end of Eli's career or the start of Daniel Jones. That I feel like it could fit into that perspective more of, well, you have a great back, even though your line might not be the squeakiest, you can still, if you can just, especially against bad rush defenses, like just have a couple plays to get it going, and they just show that you're actually running it, even if, say, you have 13 rushes for 50 yards, it's still showing that you're going to do it, that it puts it in the defense's mind. If you only do it 6 times and then, that didn't work, then the defense is just going to go, well, the Big Ben, pressure Big Ben, he can't move at this point of his career. They're passing it the rest of the game. And at that point, you're shot. That's why I feel like you have to stay committed to it for that perspective.
I'm with you.
The only thing the Chiefs are going to be able to do is really pressure you because they have a couple cats that can do that, but they don't have the best overall defense.
I'm with you, but they don't need to have the best overall defense because the Pittsburgh offensive line is shoddy, to say the least. The fact that a 39-year-old was sacked, 5th or 6th most in the league this year. That's not good for a 39-year-old quarterback who's going to be retiring. Okay. The last time the Steelers played the Chiefs, they tried, I believe it was 12 rushes, and Ben threw the ball 46 times or something crazy like that, right? That's never a success to win in Pittsburgh. Okay.
Exactly. That's what I mean. That's why, I feel like even if, your offensive line is not going to get better in a week, obviously, unless if these guys somehow turn into Popeye and get and eat beans.
It don't matter if they eat their beans or spinach or whatever. It ain't going to matter.
But I think if you just commit to it more than just 12 times and then kind of go from that game, because I remember I wasn't watching that game, but it was hopping up on Red Zone a lot that week. If you just stayed to show more runs, because it just goes to the motto of sometimes being deceptive is the best way, because if you just showcase, on second down, like we had a great first down play, 2nd and 3. Let's just run, even if we only pick up a yard. We're showing them we're still running the football, because then it stays. If you keep that in the frame of mind of a defense, they're not going to be able to sack Big Ben as much, because they're not going to be able to pressure him as much. Still in the frame of mind that you're going to run. That's more the only thing I was saying. Where I agree with you, where you've obviously watched the team all year. They don't have. You would never accuse them. Just like I said, you would never accuse the Giants of having a good offensive line. You would never accuse the Steelers this year of having a good offensive line.
Honestly, I think Pittsburgh is the
Why do you think Big Ben
worst team? I think they're the worst team in the playoffs right now. As far as I can't believe they're in. I mean, the fact that they had a 5-game stretch during this season, and it wasn't that long ago. In fact, it was in the month of December. Part of their last 5 games, or these 5 games that I'm going to talk about here. The Pittsburgh Steelers in those last 5 games gave up a 1,000-yard rusher and 2 1,000-yard receivers in 5 games. Now, I don't know about you, but that is not good numbers. Okay? So it doesn't matter the fact that it's Kansas City, dude. It could be the Jaguars, who absolutely thumped the Colts, right? But it could be the Jaguar. It doesn't matter. because Pittsburgh doesn't have a good enough offensive line to get their running back to the second level. And then there's not enough razzle dazzle. There's not enough, whatever you want to call it, in Canada's offense to even draw the guys. When guys go in motion, when you don't see a defensive back going with the guy in motion, that means the defense is not fooled. And you are exactly right. If you take away the run game from Pittsburgh, which you very well easily can, and then the only thing you have is wide receiver screens and little slants over the middle with Ben, because he can't run, he can't scramble, he can't do anything. You know what I mean? So your team is like ultra one-dimensional. So that's why I don't get it.
No, yeah, I definitely would pick the Chiefs in that game. I was just asking you from the perspective, because if they could get the run going, they have a much better chance if they can just showcase it a little bit.
Look, any given Sunday, right? Any given Sunday, you flip the coin and the game's played, and bang, any given Sunday, but the odds are stacked pretty much against Pittsburgh in this one. It's going to be in Kansas City. You're playing against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Good luck with that.
Another interesting matchup is going to be the Buffalo Bills, because they're playing their division opponent coming on a 4-game win streak to round out the season, where the Patriots were 2-3 in their last 5. Because of the way Allen at the end and the Bills in totality started playing better, I'm still not ready to say I'm picking this team to win the AFC by any stretch. But to win this particular game in the AFC against the Patriots, I would say they're in a pretty good spot to do that, because they got a good running game. Singletary's been playing fine. You got a good receiving game. Obviously, having Diggs there significantly helped. Dawson Knox is a killer tight end. And Allen's starting to play more like Josh Allen. Where earlier in the season, this team was too suspect for me to pick them for anything, and then they really started doing better. I would go with the Bills against the Patriots, because the Patriots has been less than impressive of late, where the Bills have been one of the best ending teams to the season. So,
like I said before, you want to go into the playoffs winning, especially in the NFL. You want to go into the playoffs winning. You want to go in on a hot streak, and I am not a fan of resting players. Okay? Because depending on when you start resting players and then when your game is, you potentially could go 3 weeks without seeing any game action if you rest your starters.
If you're a top team, yeah, it fits into a different perspective, because you're absolute. But if you're like the Eagles or something, or teams that you know you're going to play the next week, and you don't have the quote unquote biggest depth, you probably don't want your top guys to go out a week that you're just playing for, okay, do we want to be 7th or 6th? Like, you don't want them to get injured.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And you have guys that haven't proven anything playing your receiver position.
Right, I'm with you on that. Okay, those were extenuating circumstances for the Eagles, because it didn't really matter. They had already clinched a playoff berth, so it didn't really matter. That final game didn't matter. But I am of the ilk that all games matter, and I am trying to win each game. Okay? And that's how I look at things. So, but I really think this is, if Buffalo beats the Patriots, then they have a chance. Okay? And the fact that it's going to be in Buffalo, right? Do you know what's really amazing about this matchup, right? There's one name that's missing from this matchup that would make the turn easy, that would make this call easy. And that guy is playing for the Buccaneers now. So I'm here to tell you, I'm going with Buffalo on this one all day long.
Yeah, like I don't think Mac Jones had a bad rookie season by any
Nope,
stretch.
not by any stretch of the word.
But it's just you have a team that's been there a little bit more. Allen's been there already, has had winning seasons. Max in his rookie season.
Exactly.
So I think that's going to put them over the hump. They were hot. The Patriots were cold in the season, like you said. That's never good. So we both have picked the Chiefs for the one game and the Bills for the other game. For Titans fans, we'll be talking about your team next week since you guys, congratulations, got the bye. So you're not important right now. You'll be important next week.
Yeah, you're not important right now, but I'll tell you what, who is important, and that is the Pro Joe's Eagles made it into the postseason.
Yeah, we skipped over one AFC team, though. We should probably talk about your Burrow. You like Joe Burrow, so we'll skip. We'll go.
I'll tell you what. I think the Bengals. This might be a chance for them. The Raiders. That wasn't the best showing for them on Sunday night.
The Raiders are they're another mediocre one of the teams in the playoffs. That
even though they're 10-7,
I don't think they were bad by any stretch. They were 10-7, and they were 4-1 in the last 5. So if Derek Carr can really do well in this game and match Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow is like my friend and I were talking. He said it when we were on PlayStation. He's just a dog. Like he's a dude that has that different gear when it happens. That's why, despite their offensive line would never be accused of being good last season, he had them where they were before the injury, and they're still not good this year. And where they're at now. So I would go with the Bengals because Joe Burrow, at least for this first round, I think he's going to figure out any way, shape, and form possible to win that game.
I think they have a better running game, and I think their offensive line is slightly better. And I also agree to this. Now you understand now why I like Joe Burrow, because he is a dog. He's got that.
I think the Bengals have a better running game. In terms of the offensive lines, I would say they're even to it might actually because the Raiders have a couple.
Yeah, I said though, but I think with the Bengals having a better running game,
Josh Jacobs though, like that's the thing. If he can be on the field for the entire game, he's one of the more talented running backs.
I agree.
The issue is he just gets injured.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that would match. They can match better there, but just because of the way. The Bengals, I think, with Joe Burrow, they're just going to be able to find.
And I think Bengals defense, too.
They do have I would definitely give them the defense.
I think they have a better defense than the Raiders do as well, I think, for sure. Yeah, so I would definitely go with the Bengals on that one in that matchup, too. So.
And then for the
we both picked the B teams. We picked the Bengals and the Bills.
Bengals, Bills, and then it was the Chiefs. If only they.
Chiefs. So we're following the alphabet.
Like Kansas City Bison or something, and then we could have picked all 3.
Well, there you go. Well, no, that's not how that's going to work. But how about if we go with a B team anyway, and go with the Buccaneers over the Eagles?
Yeah, that game. The Bucs' run defense is good, so it's going to be interesting to see. Granted, the Patriots' run defense wasn't bad when we actually did very well against them in the Super Bowl when Tom Brady was once upon a time on that team. But it's going to be interesting because the Eagles are obviously they were the best rushing team in the league once Nick Sirianni committed to it this year. If you're able to still, because of the way our line is played and since Johnson's come back, other guys have stepped up even when guys have gone down. If you can commit to the run and be able to mix the plays like that, and the second biggest key is not drop the football because that's what hurts try to say that 3 times. Hurts passing percentage and QBR because of the drops and everything. That he would be better and have more touchdowns. So that makes a huge factor to have a chance against Tampa Bay. Because the one thing I will say in my lifetime, most of the times I've watched an Eagles game against Tom Brady, whether they've been close, even with A.J. Feely of all people in the game. The game was close in that season against the Patriots at that time.
That's
so
true.
It seems like they always find a way to be a team that plays it close to one of the best of all time in Tom Brady. And even in games he plays great, like he did in the Super Bowl, they beat him in the Super Bowl. They just played better. I'm not predicting the Eagles to win this game, but I think because of the way they've been playing and the way the run's been going, and even if you go 3 deep because you have Scott, Sanders, and Howard, if you go to the 4th guy, I really like that Gainwell guy we picked up on what he was able to do. And then they even added Huntley to the active roster, I think, for return purposes. The other running back they picked up, they've been picking backs fine off the scrap heap or in the draft. Now they just have to match picking receivers like they picked Devontae Smith and not get the Reggers and J. Joels of the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who just does nothing. So, like, you gotta match that, and that would help you going forward. But for this year, if they can keep the run going and they can keep kind of doing these either RPOs or play actions, I think this game will be close. But obviously, who am I favoring in a close game, as much as I hate to say it? That would be Tom Brady.
Look, I have every confidence in the world.
Like the Super Bowl somehow and just don't give it to, other than with the seconds on the clock that even Brady has to chuck a ball and then you end up winning it because it's a chuck a ball, basically.
Yeah, right. So
that
here's
would be a situation I would feel really good about. I don't want to give Brady the ball up by 3, up by 2, up by whatever. You have to be up by 8 or whatever, up by 7, so he can only tie it if he has a minute or more on the clock.
So here's how you beat Brady. Okay? There's only one way to do it. And if you do it and you're successful, you will win every single time. And that is exactly what you said. If the Eagles can commit to the run and stay and be successful at it, that keeps Tom Brady on the sideline. The best way to beat Tom Brady is to have Tom Brady standing on the sideline.
True, because that's kind of, even though he went off in the Super Bowl, if you go back and look at the biggest moments of the Super Bowl, that's when they kept him. They would extend the drive.
Exactly.
That's when they would keep him off the field when it was the second half, and it would.
What were they on 3rd down?
For Mr. Clutch to be on the field, literally.
Right. What were they on 3rd down? Like they were 60% or almost 70%.
Like 60, 65%. Like the Eagles' 3rd down percentage was ridiculous in the Super Bowl.
That's what I mean.
If you can have, and Hurts has been pretty efficient on 3rd down. Has come to. You have to have a catch if you're, even Dallas at times, Goddard, who's a great tight end, and I think he's going to be one of the better ones for plays. He's had a couple of drops. So you just have to secure the ball. Devontae Smith, the rookie, that's been fantastic. He's been our best overall securer of the ball. You have to be able to do that better going forward. But the reason I think the Eagles also might have a decent chance at running a little bit against Tampa and actually mixing it in better than most teams is, Nick Sirianni's done a good job since committing to the run of mixing our backs. It's not like he just – now, when a guy gets hot, he'll go to him for a couple straight drives, whether it's Howard or whether it's Scott. Hasn't been in as much, but you could throw him in that category as well. But he'll have Sanders, and then he'll put Howard in. He's more of just I'm just going to go through you and also can kind of finesse you a bit, but more through you back. And then Scott, who kind of reminds you of a mini Sproles where he's small as heck, but then he somehow – hits a D-back off of himself, and you're like, well, how the heck did he do that? He's like 5'5". They kind of found that's why I like how they're able to pick up those guys. Going forward for my Eagles, it's about picking up the rest of the receiver guys, because you're good at picking up certain other guys, select guys like Sproles' mentor, like Boston Scott, and then you have Gainwell, who's another good playmaker. If you mix it up with the running backs too, you're going to keep throwing them off because you can use the Gainwells and Scott when you have 2 backs on the field, like we have at times. Right. One into a passing route, then you choose to pass it instead of hand it off, and he's open and he's taken off down the field for 10 to 15 yards because those guys fly once you put the ball in either of their hands. So
I'm with you.
But I would say if it comes close, it's going to, like I said, it's a close game. I would have to favor Brady, but I don't think the Eagles are going to get smoked by Tampa Bay if they're able to actually mix in these backs like they have all season and actually run the football well. Because even against some of the bad teams they beat, it's not like all the bad teams have had bad run defenses.
True.
Like some of their strengths have been that, and they still went, well, forget you. I'm still running the football at you.
Exactly.
So, that's why I like, if Nick Sirianni can stick to his guns, I'm really going to love him in this first playoff game, even if we lose. Because it shows me that he's a coach that goes, I don't care what the stats say. This is how I built this team, and we're going to keep it close, just going at you and kind of playing the old school smash mouth football. Like we're just coming right for you, basically.
Exactly, and I'm all for that. I wish y'all lots of luck. I mean, I do, but anyway. So we
I
got.
would rather play Dallas. If we played Dallas, I would have.
Yeah, that would have been. I think that would have been a much better draw for you guys.
Honestly, if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't suck in his playoff game, and I say that with the nicest way possible I could possibly say, it's just Jimmy Garoppolo has at times not been impressive when he should be. I think they should honestly put in Trey Lance if he starts struggling in the playoff game. But
I'm with you, but
that's
yeah.
beside the point. If they
Garoppolo's been hurt though this year.
Huh?
Garoppolo's been hurt this year. He's missing time.
Up, but even I'm just talking about throughout his career, he fits in that Kirk Cousins, even below Kirk, where Kirk's even stepped up more than him, where Jimmy G's always been good but never been able to step up in key moments.
Honestly, man, I think this is Cowboys all day on this.
You think it will? Because I think it depends how their defense plays, because I don't mind the 49ers defense. I just very much mind their offense that puts their defense on the field.
That's what If
their offense is able to do better against the Cowboys defense, which can also, at times, if they can't get the pressure, if you can block and not allow them to be the potent blitz, then they can actually kind of have these possession numbers a bit by running the football with that Mitchell kid or other people. Then that can help them be close, because I think they might have the better defense overall. It's just the Cowboys have the better blitzing, probably.
I agree with that 100%.
So that's why I don't know if they'll get smoked. That's why I feel like
I don't think any of these games are going to be completely and utterly lopsided. I think the one game that might be potentially lopsided is the Chiefs-Steelers game. Maybe if God forbid anything were to happen in any one of these games where the turnover ratios go way askew, you know what I mean? That's really the only game I see being completely a blowout, would be the Chiefs over the Steelers. I think the Cowboys are going to play. The 49ers are going to play well. Both of those teams are going to play well. It's going to be a competitive game. I think the same thing with the Patriots and the Bills and the Raiders and the Bengals and the Eagles and Tampa Bay as well too, and even Cardinals and the Rams. I don't think there's going to be any real blowouts in any of these games. Okay, these are all, even though they're
that Cardinals-Rams one will be interesting, because the Cardinals are one of the coldest teams. They're colder than the Patriots coming into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the Rams have really had Odell Beckham now with Stafford start to find that click and just kind of come connected with each other. That if they keep playing to that level, you have a receiver of his ilk be able to go up and get the football and everything.
Exactly. And if you have Murray on the field, and if you can get James Conner back on the field, and you can get the Cardinals back up and healthy and running again, and from what I understand, J.J. Watt might be available for this game as well too. So I mean, I
don't think it'll be a blowout, but just with the way the Rams have been playing the other R team.
Right.
I would say I'm going to have to go towards them, because Stafford's been impressing me. He does what Goff can't. He can spread the ball. Like what Jared Goff couldn't do in past years is what Matthew Stafford can do. He's a gunslinger. Jared Goff is a game manager. Matthew Stafford can throw it over the top of cornerbacks.
I'm with you. Yeah.
So I think he really helps that offense be the offense they want to be, and he's sometimes quick striking, and then at other times using Akers and other guys to be a little bit slow but still be a good potent offense. I feel like the way that team's trending has been up at the right time, like you were saying earlier in the podcast. That's why I have to go with the Rams, because they've been ticking up right at the right time. Odell's been fitting in like a glove. And then you have the Cardinals have been going the opposite direction.
So when I believe that the Cardinals played the Rams earlier in the year, and I'm trying to go back here and see, because
it was a win for the Rams. It was Monday the 3rd.
Yeah,
30-23 win for the Rams.
Okay, that's okay. So honestly,
that Kyler did bad in two. He had yardage but 2 interceptions, where Stafford had 3 touchdowns.
Exactly.
And Sonny Michel even ran really well for them in that game.
Exactly. So unless Arizona can somehow find a way to put it together and get Murray on track and get everything rolling again, I think it's going to be a repeat of that game, and I think it's going to be a Rams win on that one as well too. I'm definitely leaning Rams. I would love to see the Cardinals. Would love to see that'd be a great story for them, and I would love to see the Cardinals do that. You know what I mean? But I think the Rams just have their number.
This is the Cardinals' year to get the experience where the Rams have people. Now Stafford really hasn't, so it'll be interesting to see how Stafford does in his play for Super Bowl. But have people that have been there, done that. The Cardinals have a younger team that is getting the Kirks of the world, the Murrays of the world, getting the feel of the NFL playoffs.
Exactly,
and that's just going to help them in the future. But I don't think they're necessarily going to win this year. Now, something that I think would be cool to end the show off as we wrap up our NFL talk would be Tennessee and Green Bay are both the first round buys in the AFC and the NFC. I'll say my answer on the AFC, after I let you go. But would you say the team that are in the first round buy in the Tennessee Titans is actually the favorite to win the entire AFC and go to the Super Bowl?
No, I think Kansas City is.
Kansas City?
Yeah, I think Kansas City is, but owing to how schedules and how things and teams won, Tennessee got the number 1 seed, right? So there's still pretty good percentages for the number 2 seed making it. You know what I mean? And to be quite honest with you, if I was in the playoffs, I would like to be maybe a lower seed, because now, even though I don't get that week off, I continue to play, because you get to the end of the regular season and you're playing well and you're hot and you're in a rhythm, right? And so all you're doing is just continuing it on, because the next game is played next Sunday. That's the wild cards, weekend, right? If you're the 2nd seed, you're playing, or the 3rd seed, you're playing, right? So I would much rather
I would agree with that for most teams. The reason I think it'll benefit Tennessee is
they're going to need they'll need it.
By the time they play again, they don't have to use the 3-back or whatever 2-back set they've been using, which has been working because the way that they have that line play, and they just run that system, they could. That's why they're able to get it done. But when you have somebody in that's to the level of Derrick Henry, even when you don't block for him, he's just going to plow through.
Yeah, you don't need to have. Yeah, he doesn't even need blockers.
So it doesn't make a difference. But the thing I like with Tennessee over Kansas City goes back to the defense, but as a whole, because their offense falls when it needs to click the most, because their Ryan Tannehill is the guy that then needs to step up compared to Patrick Mahomes. That's why I would then still favor the Chiefs to come out of the AFC, because if their running game's not going, you really need to get a big game out of the rest of the offense with Tannehill.
All right. Well, let me throw this at you.
Stop Henry, or at least not stop Henry.
Right, I'm with you. Let me throw this at you, right? So you put Patrick Mahomes on Tennessee.
Tennessee would probably win the Super Bowl because they have a better defense than Kansas City.
That's what I mean, right?
And they have Derrick Henry. Yeah,
that's what I mean. So if you gave Patrick Mahomes a better defense and a better running game, he would be winning the Super Bowl.
Well, I also don't think Kansas City would even be like, what was Kansas City? Kansas City is probably the 4th. Kansas City would probably not be second with if you flip, because if they just had
they're second.
No,
they're second.
Now they are. I'm saying Patrick Mahomes and had an average run of the mill like Cousins.
No, if they had Tannehill.
If they had Tannehill, yeah, they would probably be. They could potentially still make it, but they would not be a top 2 seed.
The same team, exactly.
Yeah,
so
they would probably be like the 6th, 5th, maybe 4th. Like they would be able to potentially make it, but they wouldn't be the same team. They would make it more because of their system than their quarterback at that point, where they're making it more because they have a system, but their quarterback's able to do whatever the heck he wants to do at the same time, basically.
So you think Tennessee, even though they're not favored, you like them coming out of the AFC to Tennessee?
Well, I like Tennessee, I think, a little bit more than you, because I don't trust the Chiefs' defense when push comes to shove. So if anyone is able to limit their offense, that's going to really hurt that team compared to Tennessee, who would be able to kind of keep it at like a 14-14 game. And then you just have to see who can get to 21 first, or a 21-21 game. See you get to 28 first. I don't see the Chiefs being as good at doing that, but that's the only reason why I think I'm a little bit more than you. If I had to rank, I would go Chiefs. And then I would say if they can, the Tennessee and Buffalo's kind of even, just because Buffalo is better offense.
Okay.
Good defense, but Tennessee has the best running back in football, other than maybe Jonathan Taylor. And then they had, who's not in the postseason, unfortunately. Thank you, Carson Wentz.
But I think Buffalo's defense, though, is better than what people are giving a lot of credit to. I think Buffalo's defense is definitely better than Kansas City's.
Oh, it's 100% better than, and I would say at least equals with Tennessee.
Yeah, okay, right.
Even
yeah. Okay.
It's just if they're able to just pound the rock with Henry and have the good enough passing from Tannehill, I could see them easily getting to that championship game at least there. But it's all going to depend how it shakes out.
All right, so now we got to do the NFC, and quite frankly, I think it's Green Bay's to lose.
That's the one I do think the first place team might actually be, because Aaron Rodgers played through an injury this year.
And played very well.
And had his slot receiver go out. I'm pretty sure linemen were out for a couple games. Still played very well.
His left tackle was out almost the whole season. He's getting back this week.
Blind side too. So that's even worse. So he played tremendously. He could be the MVP back-to-back years. Having that quarterback play. And they're also a team that has probably a better defense than they're not talked about for, because they're an offense-first team. They don't have a great defense, but they don't have a putrid defense. They're not like the Chiefs.
That's true.
But the Chiefs are all offense-dependent, and then their defense is just blitzing at times, and then they're screwed if Tyrann Mathieu not making a Olympic catch over somebody.
But that's so true, though. But it's so true. You know what I mean? That's just exactly how it is. You know what I mean? And so, if it couldn't be Green Bay, though,